Hello and welcome everyone. This is Phoenix with your Patriot Health Report for the weekend of August 17th, 2024. All the health facts you need to know for the Patriot on the go, and I am joined by Bob Gilpatrick of Boomers Forever Young, and we will be talking today how to beat early death. A really fascinating topic. You'd be surprised some of the information that Bob's going to give us, but with me talking, Bob can't give us that information, so let's go straight to Bob. Bob Gilpatrick, how are you doing, and how are things down in Florida, sir?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Phoenix. Things are okay in Florida. The hurricane that we had last week, the week before, is passed by. It's out up into the maritime provinces, and the new hurricane has veered to the north. It's going to avoid Florida. Unfortunately, it's going to hit the Bahamas today with a pretty bad hurricane. But we're doing okay here in the middle of the summer.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I was worried about you guys with that storm, but that just goes with the area you're in and the seasons. Yeah, a lot of interesting things going on around the world, without a doubt. Before we get into and on to topic, do you have any updates or information you'd like to share with us before we get into today's topic?
Yes, actually, I do. Just so people know that are familiar with our products, we started a new sale yesterday, and it's going to go on probably till the end of the month. And we've got our collagen peptides on sale, along with vitamin C, which goes together with collagen because it helps synthesize the protein. So when you take in collagen, it comes in peptides, has to be assembled into protein. The vitamin C helps with that. And the third product on sale is our probiotics. And one of the reasons we did this sale, Phoenix, is we've had a lot of people calling us that are having trouble with digestion, trouble with their absorption of their nutrients, having trouble with their intestines. And we know that collagen has a really great positive effect on all of that. So your stomach lining, which has a huge participatory component to your digestion, is affected positively by having extra collagen. And of course, we know that with good probiotics, especially ones with metabolites in them, that helps as well with your whole alimentary canal. So we put the three things on sale together. And the other thing is, Phoenix, an update on our Myotrol product. The manufacturer in California has finished the project, and the trucking company has picked it up in a refrigerated truck in California, and it will make its way here starting over the weekend. It'll be being sent here. It takes between 6 and 7 business days to arrive, and so we're looking at the last week of August, which begins on the 26th, is probably the safest day to say that we'll receive it. If it comes a little earlier, we'll send everybody emails to let them know. But that's a really good sign. This Myotrol is a brand new product. It's only been on the market for about 4 months. There's only one place that makes it, and we're the only distributor of it. And we made a business association with the inventor, Eric Kurtz, to help him to launch this revolutionary new product. And so when you do something like that, it quite often takes a year or more to really get it going, where you have a constant, predictable supply where everybody that wants it can get it. It took us about a year when we first started with Boomer Boost Phoenix to get to that point, and it took a little over a year with our Gladiator barley. So this is actually going faster. We're into this, working with Eric for about 7, 8 months now, and we're receiving a very good sized shipment where pretty much anybody that wants to get it will be able to get it now. And we've been getting a lot of really great testimonials from the people that were able to get started when we got our very first small order, 4 months ago. And we just got a testimonial from a person yesterday who's been really, really sick for a long time and is in pain, literally pain throughout his entire body. He's had some amputation issues, can't sleep, very difficult time digesting food and keeping his muscle strength. And we've been working with him to help to keep his health up as best we could. And he started taking the Myotrol, and he told me yesterday that it's really like a miracle for him where he's got these little very light dumbbells that he tries lifting to keep his muscle strength up, but even just lifting them a couple of times, he would get really out of breath and would have to rest for hours afterwards. And he told me that that's changing now. And with the Myotrol, he's able to actually lift those weights with a bunch of repetitions, and he no longer gets the exhaustion afterwards. And all the pain has gone out of his body. And he's able to sleep much better now. So this really helped turn the corner for him. Essentially, what it does, Phoenix, is Myotrol is a genetic expression set of compounds. These are plant extracts that are highly concentrated and selected and purified, and the osmolality factor is changed so that they're much more absorbable, and it's able to stimulate genes that you've had your whole life and were being expressed your whole life, but as you age, they get expressed less and less. And this product now re-stimulates those genes to express themselves as if you were a 20-year-old again. And so we're getting reports of people, yes, like myself, able to be a lot more physically fit, lift a lot more weight, put on muscle weight. We have women in their 80s, the same thing is happening for them. But this is the first time we've had someone that was this debilitated and sick who's now making a recovery.
Well, it's very good. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear good success stories like that. And also, everyone, myself, Phoenix, I was just reporting to Bob earlier, I like double my reps whenever I lift. And I like to run 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And then Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, I lift with my run, after my run. And with the Myotrol, the repetitions that I would do, instead of doing like 12 reps, I'll do 24 reps with ease. And so, yeah, you can really feel it. Now, you might have to tweak around with it. I ended up, and I told Bob this, and I'm not saying to do this. Bob will give you recommendations how to use it. I take mine at night and before I go to bed, like an hour before I go to bed, and I don't have problems sleeping, but everybody's different. Bob recommends, I remember, Bob, you told me, take it in the morning before you work out or right before you work out, and I was trying that for a while, but I drank coffee in the morning, did a few other things, and I actually believe that possibly I was diluting mine with my coffee because I drink bulletproof coffee every morning, and before I do any exercise or anything, and I'd take the my Myotrol then, and I actually think I was possibly kind of like overriding it with my coffee, and it passed through me quickly. So anyway, I moved things around and experimented until I came up personally myself taking mine at night, and then that way I have my body processing everything while I sleep, and repairing itself, doing all these things. And then in the morning when I get up early, Same routine, boom, hit the road or lift. And man, I tell you what, I really felt a difference once I changed that. We're all different, Bob. All of our physical makeup is slightly different. We're the same in many ways, but different in many ways also. And myself personally, that's how it works. So if for some reason somebody is out there also taking Mitrol and you're not seeing immediate results, there could be a reason for it. Give Bob a call and discuss it with him. I'm sure you wouldn't mind that, Bob, having someone call in and with questions like that, correct?
No, that's perfectly fine. They can give us a call. We answer the phones Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time. And any question that you have about Mitrol or anything else, you can give us a call. Stephanie or Lucy or Jim will pick up the phone, talk to them about it. If they need my help with it, which almost all the time they don't these days. They've been working for me for over 5 years. And but anytime that someone does need extra help that they need me to chime in on, I always do that.
Very cool. Yeah, and while we're talking about it, it would be remiss of us to not give that number because you're saying if anybody has any questions, I'm sure there's somebody out there like, yeah, I have a question. What number is that? What's the phone number, Bob, where people can reach you?
Yeah, sure. It's an 800 number, and it's 861-4609.
Very good. Okay. Well, that's really good about the Mitrol and getting it in, and people really good success stories. I'm one of them. Really feel it, like it. Yeah, really, really like this product, Bob. I was looking forward to it, in the beginning because you told me about it, and really looking forward. And I tell you what, it has not disappointed. I have to tell you that. Very, very good. Anyway, any other things you want to go over before we jump on to the how to beat early death?
No, I think it's a good time to start.
Okay, excellent. So let's get right into it. Again, everyone, our topic, how to beat early death. What is early death caused by? Well, we know that. Different diseases, etc. But how to beat it. And you had some interesting information about death also. Not death, but aging. And some different things. So, Bob, the floor is yours, sir. And I'll do my absolute best not to interrupt you this time, but no guarantees. Anyway.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Give me a chance to take a sip of water.
Like, here he goes again. Okay, please,
or
Bob.
Boomer Boost.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. What do you have for us, sir?
Yes, so people may or may not have heard that there's an epidemic right now of young people that are getting what used to be late adult onset diseases. They're getting them at much, much earlier ages and also dying at much earlier ages. And so if you're a person, who's 20 years old to say 50 years old, you definitely want to hear what's causing that and what you can do about it. And if you're a parent or a grandparent, even nowadays a great grandparent, if you have children or grandchildren, you want to listen also so you can be the one that can pass the information on to them and help guide them to make sure that this epidemic of early death and disease doesn't befall them. And so one of the things that's been recently discovered, and just so you know, at the beginning here, Phoenix, we're going to have real easy to do practical things to implement that will have a profound effect on the issues that we're going to discuss. This isn't going to be all about theories and then we just drop it. Each thing we talk about, we're going to be able to say, and specifically do this. And these are proven things that will solve those problems for you.
Very good. Yeah, that's something a lot of people have experienced. I have too. Someone will present information or talk about something. It'll be very possibly weighty, serious, and they'll say this, and they leave you with the thought, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, you bring all
Yes.
this, and now what? And they just don't even answer that question. It's kind of frustrating, and it leaves people kind of hanging and wondering. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's always good to have the solution to these things whenever you present it. So, um, very good, very good. Please continue, sir.
So in the past, there's been times when uh, uh, the scientific community, the medical community, have identified specific nutrients that is like a nutrient deficiency, um, problem for the whole society, and in some cases, the whole world. Vitamin D being one of them, and vitamin C. And they found out, low levels of vitamin D can cause rickets. Those levels of vitamin C was causing scurvy. And recently, there's been another one of these deficiencies that is now being considered an essential nutrient, an essential fatty acid that they're calling C15. Now, C15 is a fatty acid like you would find in fish oil, right? DHA, EPA, but it's a little bit different. And one of the ways that it was discovered that it was a problem is the United States military, particularly the Navy. The Navy has what they call Navy dolphins, and they do research with dolphins, and it's a whole program they have. And they discovered that some of these dolphins were becoming small and anemic,
Hmm.
and they had no idea why. And they also discovered it was happening to dolphins in the wild. And some Navy researchers, one who's a veterinarian, another medical doctor, who were a husband and wife team. One was in the Navy, the other a civilian, and they started doing research with others, and they were able to identify, after many months of diagnostics, this compound called C15, which was very low in the sick dolphins, and the dolphins that were healthy had plenty of it. And um, so they started then following through with humans and researching other papers that had been written in the past, and um, ended up very definitively, from the aggregate of the research, identifying that people who are low in this fatty acid C15 end up having, to begin with, very high iron in their liver first and then in the rest of their body, that is causing this syndrome that they call cellular fragility syndrome. And particularly with red blood cells, what happens is, without enough C15, these red blood cells are very weak. And weak red blood cells are taken care of in your liver, um, by particular scavenging compounds that are called macrophages, and they essentially eat red blood cells that are deficient. And in the process, because there's iron in the hemoglobin in the red blood cells, the iron is a remnant, and the liver, in killing all of these bad red blood cells, ends up poisoning itself with too much iron. And the liver itself, which is responsible largely for your metabolism of carbohydrates, meaning how good is your insulin sensitivity, and how well are you able to utilize carbohydrates for fuel, or are you going to end up having high insulin and metabolic syndrome and eventually diabetes. And so those cells in the liver start acting poorly because of the excess iron, and eventually begins dumping this excess iron into the bloodstream to get it away from the liver, and it spreads all throughout your body, and it leaks into your brain, your heart, in every cell of your body, including getting all the way into the mitochondria, the lining of the mitochondria, and destroying the mitochondria in your cells. So hopefully that sounds sufficiently bad, Phoenix, that people want to pay attention and figure out what they can do about this.
Well,
But
it sounds sufficiently bad, without a doubt.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
this is
when you start talking about the cannibalism of our own red blood cells from within, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. This is stuff I've
yeah,
never heard before. Never heard any of this. Please continue.
yeah. And so um, this is what they believe now, and they've asked a lot of doctors that have been testing young patients' blood work for quite a while, because this issue of young people dying earlier has been going on for a few years. And so doctors have blood work going back, and they've asked them, could you go back and check about this C15 for the people you did a fatty acid panel on? And sure enough, they got back to the research and like, oh my God, you know, we've got 10% of our patients have only 1/10 the recommended amount of C15,
Oh wow.
and another 20% are in between 1/10 and the minimum amount that we're saying that people need. And yes, we now we're looking at their iron levels, and absolutely we can tell now that it's this problem with C15 that's causing, this excessive iron. And so a lot of times the best research, the best confirmation, the best development of innovative ideas come at the level of the individual doctor's office. And unfortunately, sometimes they're not allowed to participate in such innovation or even the use of old trusted things. But in this case, they were confirming this whole phenomena about this emergency, in a sense, of having such low levels of C15.
Hmm.
And it's documented now as a whole new way of cellular death. And unfortunately, what also occurs when you have these high levels of iron, not only is the iron in creating these excessive oxidative molecules in the liver that they call ROS, or reactive oxygen species, but as the iron gets into the mitochondria, it's interfacing with hydrogen peroxide, which is a waste product of the Krebs cycle, and creates ROS right from there. The other thing is, Phoenix, they don't talk about in these studies, is when your liver stops functioning properly and your insulin goes up and your blood sugar goes up, that sugar in your blood doesn't just sit there. It interacts with the proteins that you went to all the trouble to make and glycates them and makes them a toxin, a glycotoxin, which causes more inflammation. And in that glycating event, throws off a molecule of superoxide, which is the most volatile of all the reactive oxygen species. So it's this multiple cascade of inflammation and destruction, all being traced back pathophysiologically, with many studies now, thousands of studies involved in this, Phoenix, documenting what happens right down to the electron with a low level of C15.
Wow. That's amazing. What's the cause of this? I'm so
So
curious about why would this happen. I mean, is it
there's two
dietary?
reasons they identified, and a third one is one that I know is a third issue. And the first two issues they identified goes back to 1977, when we were advised by the CDC to not drink whole milk and don't eat butter. And
Wait a minute, hold
um,
on. Do you mean that we got bad information from the government, Bob? Is that what you're saying? That they actually gave us health advice that was incorrect?
well, here's, I would say they gave advice. They had no idea there was such a thing as C15 back then. Um, but for many other reasons, that was not great advice. The lack of C15 was a side consequence of a bad decision. And that was one of the reasons why people's C15 went down, because there's lots of C15 in dairy products. And that's not the whole solution. You can't just drink more whole milk because there's other factors to be considered. But the other one was um, generally all throughout the world, the fish in the ocean are getting smaller. And they now know from testing them that whatever it is that's causing them to be smaller is also causing them to have less C15. And we used to get an adequate amount of C15 from whole milk and from fish from decades ago, along with the amount that we make in our body. And that's the third piece to it. They know that we can make C15 in our gut when we have bacteria which is interfacing with fiber in our in our diet, and and as a result, one of the metabolites that is being made from this fermentation, and there's a compound in the fiber that's called inulin, and when that combines with the probiotics, you do get a good amount of C15. However, we have a situation where people don't eat as much fiber as they used to, and our microbiomes in our gut are not the same as they used to be, because people used to be much closer to the farm, and when you would eat food that was grown on that farm, you consumed large amounts of good bacteria with that food. And but now you don't anymore. There's almost zero bacteria on the carrots that you buy at the grocery store, whereas there was lots of it if you picked it from your garden on the farm and ate it that same day. Your microbiome had a robust amount, many hundreds of different kinds of good bacteria that would interface with the fiber you were eating, which was also in carrots, which was also in potatoes, and of course in the grains that were being eaten. And you made a lot more C15 as a metabolite back in the day.
Okay.
And so those are the three reasons why, the last of which was the one I just put out there. And we know that there are hundreds of metabolites that are made in that fashion in your gut, with C15 just being one of them.
Very interesting. Um, so, solutions for this. How do we fix
Yeah,
this? I mean, like you said, it's just not as simple as eating whole milk and switching to butter, which I've eaten butter
yep,
all my life.
yep,
I knew, Bob. I physically knew that margarine, excuse me, was not good for you. I could just tell. I'm like, this can't be good. Because you read the ingredients, I'm like,
yeah,
this can't be good. And everybody's like, well, this is good for your health, and if you want to live longer and prevent heart attacks. And I'm thinking back, I'm like, well, my grandfather, my great grandfather, all these people lived a really long time, and man, they ate butter. They drank whole milk. They ate, they loved eating fats, and so I'm like, something's not adding up here. So anyway,
yeah,
I could feel it. I just knew it, and I'm like, no, I'm going to have butter. I mean, really, I had people like roll their eyes at me, like, really, you're using butter? I'm like, yeah, I'm using butter from a cow. Churn that milk up, And there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, please, what are the solutions to this?
Yeah.
How do we
So,
deal with this?
yeah. So, first off, your level of C15 is now being used as a biomarker for how long you're going to live. And it's another tool that the life insurance companies have to be able to predict within about 90 days when you're going to die. No matter what age you are, they can predict when you'll die, and they're accurate to within 3 months. And this is one of the markers that they now use. But in order what to do, they look to one of the blue zones, which is Sardinia, and a blue zone is one of the places on Earth where people live in a very healthful state to 100 years old and beyond. And Sardinia is unique as a blue zone, like all of them are. But one of the things they know about Sardinia, because they went there and specifically on a C-15 investigation, went to Sardinia to see if there's any clue for these long-lived people there. And they tested their blood, and as it turned out, the average person in Sardinia, particularly the ones that lived in the mountains, their C15 level was more than 3 times as high as the average person in the world. So the average person has a percentage of C15 that makes up their cell walls, and that number is zero point 0.2, right? In Sardinia, the average person is 0.64. And the people that are the very old people there, that are between 80 and 100 years old, they're still at double that zero point 0.2. They're still at zero point 0.4, even when they're getting on to their 10th decade. So that was one of the things they discovered, and where they found, they said, all right, well, where are they getting their C15? And it turns out that the people that have longest lived, they live in the high altitude, and they are goat and sheep herders. And the goats are grass fed from high altitude, and they make a couple of different cheeses that they eat. One is pecorino, which is a hard cheese they get from the sheep, and another is a very soft goat cheese that's even more bioavailable. And the research they did, they showed that if you take goats and sheep and even cows and they're grass fed, they have more than double the C15 of the animals that are not grass fed. And in addition, in the Alps and in the high ranges of Sardinia, the high altitude more than doubles the amount of C15 again. And that's where they're getting their C15 from. And 25% of the calories of the people in this blue zone in Sardinia is coming from dairy, from their goats and sheep. They don't eat their goats and sheep for meat, hardly ever. They do maybe once a week, they have a little meat, but they're constantly drinking their milk and eating the cheese, from these animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is some of the research that's been done. And what you can do, the simplest thing that I'm aware of to do is you're not necessarily treating your level of C15 right out of the gate, but what you can do is you can knock down the level of ROS, which is what's killing you, and you can do that with the naturally endogenously occurring enzyme called SOD, which is superoxide dismutase, which is an enzyme the human body makes in order to negate and scavenge these reactive oxygen species that are causing all the damage. And we know from doing this for 13 years and examining people's blood work that when they use our sprouted barley seed product, which is loaded with superoxide dismutase, their inflammation comes way, way down. And There's a biomarker related to your rate of aging from this inflammation that's called C-reactive protein. And we know from people sending us their blood work where they would start with their CRP. And once they start using our sprouted barley seeds, what it would come down to and what the benefits were that they had for their health. And including an insurance company looking at your blood will think you are a lot younger when they look at your CRP, and including up to as much as 50 years younger, you can convince the insurance company that you're 50 years younger than you are via that main biomarker.
Now
You
what
could have,
Bob's telling you there isn't just speculation. Bob, you got a little story that you've told us before. Maybe we have listeners who've never heard it. You personally experienced that, not you yourself, but someone very close to you and very important at Boomers there. Why don't you share that story about those biomarkers and the insurance company with us, if you don't mind?
yes. So this is kind of how we started Boomers Forever Young. I had come to an office in St. Petersburg to meet a man and his wife who needed help with a computer project for their real estate company. And I came to help them with that. And the man, Larry, was very sick when I met him. He was what the Brits would call crumbly. He was 65, going on 85 years old. And that's how old his biomarkers showed in his blood work was 85. And so I asked him if he wanted me to help him with his health, and he said yes. And I started helping him. And very quickly thereafter, he started to get better. He started losing fat, gaining muscle, gaining his strength back, and getting off his medications. He was on 11 meds when we started, and he got all the way down to zero after about 6 months. He avoided 2 surgeries. And he said to me, Bob, if you could do this for me, why don't we start a company together and do it for other people as well? And that's how we started Boomers Forever Young. And after that first while that I was working with him, he went to get a new life insurance policy. And they came back with the result, and his agent came to me at the office and he said, hey, they told me from the insurance company, thank you, because you're the healthiest person that I've ever sent to them. And they said that you get superior preferred insurance as if you're a healthy 20-year-old. And he said, but they wanted one correction. They said the date of birth on the application said that you were born in 1945, but they looked to them like a man about 33 years old. And that's happened with many people since. That was 13 years ago.
Wonder
And
what the response was when they found out. No, from Larry. Like, no, that's my age. That's my actual age, my birthday. I mean, that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah,
amazing, that to fool an insurance company. Because, like you said,
yeah,
these guys make money betting on when you're going to die. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that's
yeah,
amazing. People see it wasn't just speculation; that they've actually experienced that, not just with Larry, but other people also. Real deal.
yeah, absolutely. So people can get their own test to find out where their level of C15 is and also their level of SOD. So, or their level of C-reactive protein, which is the inflammation that the SOD helps with. And so the first thing I would do is get your barley, either heirloom barley or gladiator barley. There's more amino acids in the gladiator barley for people that want to gain muscle weight. But you can also get a blood test to determine your level of C15 to see if you want to try to do something about that as well. The test is called a red blood cell distribution width. And this is their biomarker for aging, right? So what they do is they look at the collection of your red blood cells, which are supposed to be uniform, except for the ones that are naturally dying, that are going to be, eliminated by the macrophages. right? But in people low in C15, the sizes of the red blood cells are all over the place. Some of them are normal size, some are really tiny, some are somewhere in the middle. There's no uniformity, and they know that that is from a low level of C15. And you can get that done. You can get that test done from a company called Genoa Diagnostics. Now, I have not myself gone on and done this. I don't know how much the test costs, but that's the company that does the test, that they developed this test with the researchers that were doing all the research about the diseases. And so Genoa has that, and it's going to be testing your red blood cell membranes and giving you a report as to what the level of C15 correlate would be as a result.
Hmm.
So what can you do to raise your C15 level? Well, one of the easy ways to do it is what we talked about right at the very beginning of the program, Phoenix. We have a premium probiotic that it has been fermented in a very special way to produce metabolites. And remember, I was saying that when you make the when you make the C15 in your gut, it's from bacteria fermenting fiber. Well, that's what we do when we make our probiotic. We put the sprouted barley seeds that has a lot of fiber in a vat. We add the good bacteria, and it creates this ferment that has all those metabolites. So you'll get a bump in C15 that way. But in addition, what you can do is you can start taking additional fiber. Okay. Now you can go to the store and you can purchase a comprehensive fiber that's got 4 or 5 different kinds of fiber. That's what I would recommend. Just take a scoop of that a day. If you want your own fiber that's going to work well, you want to know how to make what's called resistant fiber or resistant starch. And you would do it with potatoes or rice that you would cook, boil it and cook it, and then um, cover it up and put it into the refrigerator for 24 hours. And the starch that's in there will no longer be digestible. And that's what you want, because you want it to make its way undigested into your large intestine, where the bacteria can ferment it and create metabolites, including C15. And you can make a mimic of a time gone by when people used to get more fiber. And if you take it with our probiotics, you'll start this churn in your gut of the production of metabolites plus the extra metabolites that are in those probiotics. It's good for you in many, many ways, but this is a new and additional way we now know of.
Wow,
The
that
other
is
thing
that is
is,
fascinating. That is really good
yeah,
information right there, Bob. You always share good stuff with us. People, you're hearing things that you're not going to hear anywhere else. You can listen to different podcasts, different interviews. Bob brings information to the table like blows my mind. Things I've never heard. I don't think there's ever been an interview we've done, and we've done many over the years, everyone, that I didn't learn something, or not just one thing, many times multiple things from an interview with Bob. I mean, I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm so impressed with the stuff you bring to us, Bob. Not to interrupt you, but I guess I have to at least one every interview. So I'm going to mark this up as this is the time I took as kind of off topic, but it's on topic. But thank you very much. That's mind blowing stuff. Please, please, please continue.
yeah. So uh, in, the other way to get more of the C15 is there's a company called Fatty 15, and the way it came about, Phoenix, is the lady and her husband, they were doing the research with the dolphins. They actually, because they were funded by the Naval Research Institute, the Navy got a patent. They actually got 40 patents on the use of C15 as a nutritional supplement. And as a result of the research that was done, they licensed those patents to this husband and wife team who ended up getting a bunch of assistance from nutrition company professionals. And you can see it on their website, how professional it is. And they made a pill that has C15. And it's 100 milligrams, which is kind of the minimum dose that you would take. You might actually have to take 2 bottles of these a month. But if you're going to get your test for C15, the red blood cell width distribution test, and you're very low, you might want to take 2. If you're right there at that level of 0.2 already and you just want to get it up to 3 or 4, kind of like in Sardinia, where they live to be 100, you could easily do that by taking their product. And their website's called Fatty 15.
That's fun. That's a weird name.
I'm going to buy some to try it out, Phoenix. I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm going to be getting some of that myself.
That name makes me laugh. Fatty 15. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that name. I don't think I would have named my company Fatty 15. I don't know. But it's curiosity provoking. You see the name like, what's Fatty 15? You think it's like a diet pill or I don't know. It's just a funny name. It's going to work because it makes me stop and think. So it's very, I guess, attention getting Fatty 15. I mean, because a person with normal
marketing company came up with it,
Yeah, I know. This is like Fatty 15. When you said that, I'm like, at first I thought he said fatty, like Thaddy. I'm like, no, he said fatty. I'm like, Fatty 15.
F-A-T. Yeah.
Okay. Please continue.
Yeah, like a fat cat,
Yeah,
and
fat cat.
So we're going to switch topics here for a second, Phoenix, unless you had a question or anything, something that came up as a curiosity about C15.
No, that's...
I'm going to move on to exercise.
Yeah, let's get right on to that because we're running up. We have a little over 10 minutes left, so please continue.
So there's been some really great new research on exercise lately also. About 2 years ago, all these big podcasts that had millions of listeners started talking about exercise, the science of exercise, and also, weight loss and muscle building and how important it is to maintain your muscle and to have good cardiovascular endurance. Well, what's happened is these people started getting to meet each other by watching all the different podcasts, becoming a guest on this one, that one. And some of the top people in the world started to listen to research they'd never heard before and started to change their mind about things and modify things and reconsider. And you're now starting to get this kind of distillation of all the information and what actually is the very best things to do. And there's a lot of benefit to all different kinds of exercise you can do. But if you're not somebody that wants to spend lots of time exercising, there are certain things that are now coming out that are the most important. And why? And so one of them is maintaining your muscle in your lower body from your waist down. So maintaining the muscle in your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calf muscles, and not just some of the muscles, but kind of all of them, right? Because you have 3 muscles in your calves, and some of them are muscles that shorten when you exercise, some elongate, and they're all very important in maintaining your balance and your strength and your gait and your ability to prevent yourself from falling. And so a lot of the research, because so many people die and die young from falling when they get older, when their muscles start to get weak, they really have done a lot of research as to exactly how to exercise. And the reason is that if you're a person who's 65 years old or older, and if you fall and break your hip, you have a 30% chance of dying within 1 year.
Whoa, yeah.
And so a broken hip it's like, mom or grandma or dad fell and broke their hip. They're in the hospital getting a hip replacement, but they should be home next week. Well, okay, great. Well, what are you going to do to make sure that they don't die within the next year?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
one of the things that they know for sure now is this thing about strengthening all the muscles in your legs. And the best exercise that they now know of is the step ups on a box. So this doesn't have to be a strenuous exercise. It can start with a little platform that's only an inch high if you want to, and you can build up. But the technique is important where they said you want to step up with one leg, and then when you step back down, you want to do it very slowly. So you're holding tension on your leg while you're stepping down. And so they said for the count of one, step up, which is kind of a quick step up, but then very slowly step down. And just start out at the lowest that you're comfortable with and build your way up, adding repetitions. Every other day you might be able to add one or two repetitions, of course, do both legs, and then begin to increase the height of of the box that you're stepping up on. And I did this once, not knowing all the science of it because I didn't know it back then. I did this once, Phoenix, when I was about 45 years old, and I built my way up uh, on this step type of technology. And I got to the point where I could step up onto a platform, even if it was a stool. I could step up onto a stool that was about 4 feet high with one leg and push myself up and balance on that one leg on that stool.
Wow.
And so
Without using
it
your
doesn't
hands. Without.
it doesn't really matter, how old you are or where you start. You can increase the strength in your legs really dramatically with this type of exercise. And and so this is one real important thing for people to know about exercise. If you're only going to do one exercise, that's it right there. Okay. Now the other thing is they have this other research about your cardiovascular endurance and how well your body does at uptaking oxygen. What is your VO2 max? How much oxygen can you uptake during an exercise routine? And they now know that two things, walking quickly, right, or what they call high intensity interval training are the two best ways to increase your VO2 max. And walking is the easiest and the quickest way to get it going. And it's the same thing with those box steps. It doesn't matter if you can only walk for 10 steps, then 2 days later, walk 11 steps, then 12, then 13. And the next thing you know, you're going to hit this thing where all of a sudden one day you're going to be able to walk for a half an hour and you're like, wow, I can walk for a half an hour now. Well, that's really good. Now, and it doesn't have to be all at once. So one of the habits that the best scientists recommend people get into is the habit of doing something that's a little harder. For example, you pull into your parking lot at your house, park as far away as you can, and make sure you have your rain gear. Make sure you got your umbrella in case the next day it rains and you don't want to get soaked, right? And get in the habit when you go to the grocery store, don't look for that closest parking spot. Park at the end of the parking lot and walk both ways and get into the habit of challenging yourself to do this. And they said if everybody would just do that, it would solve 50% of all the health problems in the country.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Things used to be so different. We've talked about this on different programs. You know, the more technologically advanced we became, the more sedient we became. More people spend a whole lot of time too much behind a screen of their phone, of the computer, or their tablet, or whatever, television. People these thing called couch potato, and and we've talked about this before. It used to be a problem whenever I was young of getting kids to come in the house. it's time to come in, right? Everybody wanted to bolt out the door. Then it got to the point a few years ago, they had a program that was called 1 hour a day. And what it was, they were trying to promote that parents would have their children spend at least 1 hour outside a day. I'm like, really? Whenever I heard that program about trying to make kids spend at least an hour outside, you were lucky to get me inside for an hour a day. I mean, things have changed so much. But anyway, yeah, I can see how that would change everything. And back then, too, you didn't have, obesity like you see now. I mean, it just wasn't there.
Yep. On just on another topic, as we wind down here, Phoenix, there's other new research literally just coming out, in the last week, really in a big way, is the fact that human beings don't age linearly. You have these bursts in rapid aging. And the first burst happens around 45 years old, and the second one around 60. And they don't really know 100% why this happens. They think, especially in women, it might have to do with menopause. People's hormones change as we age. And so knowing that that's the case, and I had that happen to me when I was about 45, I lost the ability to throw a baseball or a softball at a very, very high velocity. I could throw a baseball over 90 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, when I was about 45, I realized that my throwing arm was not what it used to be for no particular reason. And I didn't experience it again at 60, but by that time I'd been taking Gladiator barley, for a couple of years. And so that's probably why.
Mm-hmm.
But what can people do to avoid that type of aging burst? And I think that a lot of it goes back in our history to literally the time of the cave people, where they only lived to be 30 years old. And the old people, as they became slow and crumbly, they became useless to the tribe, in a physical way. They could no longer run down the game that needed to be run down. And so they just kind of died off and made room for young people. And I think there's an epigenomic aspect to that, where the epigenome over the years was inherited, and people would have these bursts of aging for no particular reason other than your genes stopped expressing for some of the most important chemical compounds that kept you young, one of which is SOD. We know that people, when they get to be in their 40s, their SOD, which is the holy grail of anti-aging, drops off significantly. And the good news is you can replace it now. You can actually have more SOD now at the age of 68, like I am, than I had when I was 20 years old, because we can take it in by mouth for the first time. They figured out how to stabilize the molecule that only had a half-life of 10 minutes. And so now you can eat it. And your body's C-reactive protein, which is your rate of aging, is going to diminish by 10 times. And you can avoid these bursts in aging like that. The other main hormone that drops off is called irisin, irisin, and has profound effect on your brain, on your cerebral spinal fluid, on your muscles, on your energy metabolism, your fat metabolism, and that also drops way off. We now know, Phoenix, that when people take Myotrol, their level of irisin comes back up to the level that it was when they were much, much younger.
Nice.
And they're anticipating improvements in people with Alzheimer's disease, because we know that irisin is very low in people with Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And so these are some of the things that you can do. Heart disease is still the main thing that kills people early. Right. And you don't hear about this a lot on the news. What do they talk about on the news? Cancer, people being murdered, people taking fentanyl, but heart disease still kills more people, yet the vast majority of people don't know that. And if they do know the heart disease kills people, they really don't know why. They don't know any of the pathophysiology of it. And so without going into the pathophysiology, we'll just talk quickly about what somebody should do in regard to heart disease. And on our podcast, Phoenix, we have podcasts and YouTube videos about all of this stuff. One real important aspect is circulation, right? And we have lots of ways to help people improve their circulation, including the use of pulsed electromagnetic fields, right, that are projected by this mat, this circulation mat. People want to know about that. They can call us and talk to us about it. Also, make sure your Krebs cycle is ramped up, right? Your powerhouse of your cell. And we can help you do that with the right nutritional supplements. And as we talked about before, inflammation. Nothing will damage your heart faster than inflammation. And we can help you get that down by a factor of 10. Right? And then the last part is the issue of cholesterol and plaque. And there's a lot you need to know about that too. And we can also help you with that part.
Wow, a lot of information, Bob. I tell you what, it's fantastic. We're at an hour right now, but I mean, there's so much more to cover. But anyway, more programs in the future, everyone. Again, fantastic information. Let's go into, since we're at the end of the hour here, go into before we close out, your closing thoughts, your last thoughts you have on all of this, some words of wisdom you have for us, and your contact information, how to contact you. Now, everyone, real quick, go to patriotintelreport.com, click on the lady on the blue lightning storm on the left-hand side. They'll take you right where you need to be, and all the information and a lot of really cool things that you can find there. But Bob also has other information. So first, in this order, tell us how to contact you, your contact information, your location, all of this, and then finish up again with your final thoughts and leave us with some words of wisdom, Bob.
Sure, Phoenix. Yeah, so the 800 number is 861-4609. You can call, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Eastern Time. And if you want to come visit, you can do that. We're at 5401 Central Avenue in St. Petersburg, right on the north side of Central Avenue, about halfway between the beach and downtown. And call ahead of time. It's not a storefront where there's a clerk at the store. We do have all our products here because our fulfillment center is here. We have a nice conference room. You can come by and visit. We have a person from Canada coming to visit us in a couple of weeks. Phoenix.
Oh, very cool.
And if just as a couple of last thoughts, this is, here we are on the 17th of August in 2024. Most people that are listening to Midnight Overwatch are probably very well aware that there might be some times coming ahead that could be challenging to navigate. And this is a time when we need to be aware of that, acutely aware, be at our very, very best in preparation for challenging times in terms of our physical strength, our focus, our concentration, our attitude. And this is the very time when you want to take the best advice Phoenix has, which is say no to fear, because fear will sabotage everything else. And so have confidence in yourself, have confidence of the kingdom of heaven that's within you, animating you with unlimited amount of strength and power and resilience, as long as you know how to allow it to flow. So you can always come on to our website and click on podcasts and blogs. You can learn about things like resilience, using the inner balance. You can learn about the emotional freedom technique, havening, all kinds of stuff about nutrition and health and building muscle, managing your mindset, and you can always give us a call if you're working on these things and you have a specific question that you haven't been able to get answered anywhere else. If you give us a call, we'll do our best.
Very good. Bob, thank you so much. Again, always blows my mind the amount of information and knowledge you bring to us about all of these. And I want to throw one thing out to the public here really quick. Bob talks about the barley that he offers, the heirloom barley and the gladiator barley. I have a confession to make. I didn't really look into the research of it. I'm like, oh yeah, gladiator barley. And I actually chose the and I've been using it for years. Great product. But yeah, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it other than like, yeah, gladiator barley, that's for me. I never told you that, Bob. This is, a little true story about Phoenix there. But anyway, thank you so much. Your products are wonderful. I'm loving the Myotrol. Really working. Really good. Feel it. And, of course, I've used Boomers and Boomers barley for many years and love it. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Bob, so much again for this program, all you bring, and your staff. Really appreciate it, sir.
It's my pleasure, Phoenix. Thank you so much for having me on. I'll look forward to our next time.
So will I. Always do. Anyway, everyone, that's it. Until the next Patriot Health Report, or PIR if you are a member, be sure and check it out. And I'm here on this Midnight Overwatch channel on YouTube and on Rumble, Midnight Overwatch. So anyway, like, share, and subscribe. Be the best that you can be. And like Bob said, God wins in all of this. Okay, that's the bottom line. No matter what difficulties we may face in these challenging times, tumultuous times, your goal is to have the ability to be the best that you can be for yourself and for those whom you love. Okay, so until the next Patriot Health Report, God bless, be well, and Phoenix and Bob out.